Today is Thursday, April the 4th, 2017, and the location of the interview is the home of Delbert Mock in Waitsburg, Washington, and that is M-O-C-K. And I am interviewing Delbert Mock, who was a World War II veteran in the United States Army, and he left the service as a staff sergeant. Delbert served from 1943 to 1945. And Delbert's date of birth is September 3rd, 1924. Dixie Ferguson and Vic Phillips, the videographer, are conducting the interview today. And we represent the Blue Mountain chapter of the American Red Cross. So just once again, for the record, Delbert, what war and branch of service did you serve?
In the Army. And was in the infantry.
In World War
World War II.
Okay, thank you. And again, you were drafted or you were enlisted?
Drafted.
And where were you living at the time?
Here in Waitsburg.
In Waitsburg?
Yeah.
At home with your parents, of
Yeah.
course. And if you would name your siblings, name their names.
Have two sons, Tom and Jerry Mock.
And Mock, And then you said brother.
Had a brother, Daryl Mock, and a sister, Velma Mock.
Velma. Okay, very good. And did the draft letter come through the mail, Delbert?
Yeah.
Do you remember that day when that happened?
Yeah, pretty well.
Were you prepared for it?
I knew it was going to come. So we all in school, and waiting and see what happens.
Yeah. Were there other classmates that had already gotten the letter or had enlisted?
Some of the older ones of me had.
And did you open that envelope?
Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome, Delbert.
Yeah.
Ken, I'm always interested. What was that particular? Were your parents here when you opened the letter?
I know Mom was. Dad was probably working.
Sure.
I'm sure.
Do you remember the reaction and your response and your mother's response?
I just knew it was coming, and I would get it someday because others had.
Sure. By the way, Delbert, were you, as a young man, watching the news a lot?
Yeah.
Because we obviously were already at war in 1943.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Japan bombed the Philippines in, or Hawaii there in 1941.
Right.
So.
And speaking of that, you were a teenager hearing that news. Do you remember that day?
Yeah, pretty well. I don't remember exactly where I was or what I was doing that day, but probably in school.
Did you think, oh boy, here we go, we're probably going to be getting into the war?
Yeah.
Were you already listening to the news about Hitler and Europe and his advances?
Yeah. So all we had in those days was radio, and here we was kind of nitpicky on a few stations. Some were good and some weren't. So.
Sure. And I just, you told me very briefly, which I think is very interesting for the recording. Your parents settled in Hanford, Washington, which is not too far from here. And you told me that 5 of you lived in a 3-room country home, and you cleared the farm of about 60 acres.
Yeah, I raised vegetables and potatoes. I shipped them sold them on the market, wherever we could. Dad shipped two two carloads of corn and potatoes and green beans to Seattle, and the market fell, and they had to pay the dray outfit to come and dump the boxcars, keep from paying demurrage on them.
Oh my goodness, yeah, yeah. And then you just had to move on and figure out another way to survive. But
we lived off of the cows. We had 7 to 9 cows we milked every day, morning and night. And I started milking when I was 5 years old.
I believe it. Yeah, that's just the way it was in the early part of the century. Sure. Yeah. But I love those simple but hard-working stories, and I want to say that perhaps this is why they called you the Great Generation, because of that background.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to include that. So getting back to opening that letter, how long after were you already going to your induction?
This March the 10th, I had to go in and sign up. Went from there.
Was that Spokane?
No, here. I got on the train in Walla Walla and went to Pendleton, and from Pendleton, the troop train rolled into Fort Douglas, Utah, and there I was put with clothes and everything in my duffel bag. And
they give you a good haircut?
Yeah. The shoes I never did like we got, but then we wore them. So,
shoes or boots?
Yeah. Shoes, they were, well, of course we had leggings in them days, you know. You don't see them on uniforms anymore.
Yeah. Why was that to keep you warm?
I don't know whether it was that or keep the, when you're hiking, scratching your legs or what. I never did know what the leggings were for.
Interesting. Were you already pretty much homesick by the time you got to Utah?
No. I guess I never thought about it. I knew it was something that I had to do, and my country, and I stand up for it.
Yes. Did you early on believe that America was going to win this war?
Oh yeah. I knew we were powerful and was going to do what had to be done.
Why were you so confident that America could win the war?
I don't know. I think it's mainly probably because of the way I was brought up and the religion in my life, and all of that.
Are you saying strength, faith, a strong belief in God? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And good would come?
Yeah.
That's a good answer. Yeah. So you were in Fort Douglas for how long, Delbert?
A couple weeks. From there, went on the troop train then to Chicago, and they dropped us off of the troop train, and we went, the bunch of us, I think there was two more car trains of us that went down to Fort Knox, Kentucky, and that's where I trained, was in Fort Knox.
Now, was that artillery, or what was that?
It was a big army base, Fort Knox. It was armored infantry.
Armored.
Yeah.
Did you have any choice as far as...
No, they never asked me anything. They asked one day, said we need some chauffeurs, and a bunch of the guys jumped up and put their hands up and volunteered. And, well, what'd they chauffeur? They ended up chauffeuring a wheelbarrow.
That's cruel.
Yeah.
That's a sick sense of humor.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, what I suppose the troop trains were just absolutely packed
Yeah.
wherever you went. How long? Why did you go to Chicago?
I don't know. That I guess the main route out of from here, and it dropped us down from Chicago down to Fort Knox.
Okay, then what was your daily experience like at Fort Knox? What were your living conditions like?
Then a barracks, 2-story barracks, and we, one big bathroom at the end. You could shower, wash and shave, and take care of yourself.
How long were you there?
Till August of '43.
Okay. And while you were there, what were you doing every day? Marching, learning how to shoot? What were you doing?
Marching, and we had gun training, and I fired on the rifle range and the pistol and the machine gun and all of that. Trained on them. We had to take them apart and learn how to take them apart and clean them and put them back together.
Had you been a hunter as a kid?
Some, not too much.
Were you familiar with guns?
Oh yeah. I always had a .22 rifle I used to shoot squirrels with.
Yeah. Probably back then, am I guessing that most of the inductees were probably from farms, kind of familiar with hunting and fishing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Were they long, tiring days?
Yeah. Up at 6 in the morning and lights went out at 9.
Yeah. You were probably ready to sleep.
Yeah.
How was the food?
Fair.
Yeah.
You cook for a big bunch, it's the only thing that bothered me is I like coffee, but I liked it with cream only. Well, they poured cream and sugar all in it, and it kind of ruined me on wanting coffee for a long time afterward.
Do you drink coffee now?
Yeah, have my coffee in the morning.
You bet. But so you learned all the basics. Now, while you're there, do they tell you anything about what's going on overseas?
We never heard much. We didn't have any radios or anything in the barracks there. So didn't know a heck of a lot what was going on while I was there.
Sure. Now you said you were there in the summertime. It had to be very hot and humid. Yeah. Were you kind of homesick at this point, or still ready to go?
Yeah, I missed home, missed Mom's cooking.
I bet.
Yeah, he was a very good cook.
I bet she was. So, you're done with your training at Fort Knox, and what was your new assignment?
They just loaded us up on the troop train again and headed for California. Got to Camp Stoneman.
Where is that?
And it's out of Frisco, right in that area. And was there about 3-4 days, and they told us one morning to get up and put all of our fatigues, heavy clothes on, load us on a ship, and we pulled out out of Frisco, out under the Golden Gate Bridge, and
wow.
And they wanted to fool the Japs to think that we were going to up to Canada or Alaska by putting us in the heavy fatigues. Instead of that, we went out and headed right for New Caledonia.
New Caledonia. What was the mission there?
We just sat there till they separated us all up and where we were going and what to do.
Delbert, when you passed under the Golden Gate Bridge, was that pretty emotional for you guys?
Yeah.
Leaving home, your
Yeah.
country?
It shipped over on the SS Loreline.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there was 6,000 troops, Army troops on there, and with the officers and wax and everything that was on the ship going overseas, and we got 2 meals a day, breakfast, and he'd give us a banana or orange or something for noon, and then back to feed at night, and when I fed that night, I ate, and they put me on KP that night after dinner, and so they come and got me at my room, took me down to the galley to the kitchen, and I ended up peeling potatoes all night on the potato machine, and when midnight come, we stopped and ate lunch, and I went over and sat by the baker, and I said to the baker, I said, "Get me on with you down here in the rest of this trip." He says, "Kid, what do you want on down here for?" I said, "I eat down here. I don't eat up there." So he did. He got me on the rest of the trip. And the next 3 days, nights, I worked in the kitchen.
Snitched a few morsels here and there.
Yeah. He'd always say at midnight, he'd say, "What do you want to eat, kid?" And I says, "You fix it, I'll eat it." So he'd cook me a big steak.
All right.
So,
Smart move.
yeah. At least I ate.
You know what you described at lunchtime is nothing for young men?
Yeah.
Yeah, very skimpy. I'm surprised at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't, the criminy cook and eat that much. Food is it's a big kitchen on that SS Loreline.
Well, feeding that many people?
Yeah.
How long was the trip?
I think it was 5 days to Caledonia.
Did you get seasick?
No,
That's good.
never did.
Well, that's helpful. And you probably never had heard of New Caledonia.
No.
Yeah. Was
No.
it decent weather going over?
Yeah, pretty calm.
And then you're sleeping. Were you just kind of stacked up?
Yeah. I was in the cabin class smoking room on the fantail of the SS Loreline, and the bunks were, I think, were 5 high. In the ballroom, the bunks were 12 high.
Wow.
And,
Wow. How did you get up the ladder, of course? Whoops.
well, you climb from one bunk to the next, so you get to yours. So,
My goodness. And that used to be a luxury ship turned into a troop ship.
yeah,
And I think
It rated right under Queen Mary in size.
wow. I think it was based out of San Francisco.
Yeah,
Right. And then they brought it home
yeah.
to return to a luxury ship. Yeah.
It transported troops all over the Pacific,
Wow. Amazing. So you're now in New Caledonia, well fed, and you get off the ship, and then what?
I think we didn't do much training there because they were separating us out, where to go. And then when we got that, I loaded on a LST and went from Caledonia up to Guadalcanal,
Oof.
where come in and they had just taken Guadalcanal then.
They being the Japanese.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and got them all off it, but the Japs was still bombing us there at Guadalcanal. And that first night there, they bombed and hit the ammunition dump, and we had fireworks all night long. And stuff was going flying.
Oh, Delbert, I I have to ask, were you afraid on your way to New Caledonia?
No,
No? Mm-hmm.
no.
Were you afraid when you were going to Okinawa?
I didn't make Okinawa. I went there from Guadalcanal to Caledonia, New Caledonia, and was there, I think, a week, and then they loaded me on another little transport ship, went up to New Georgia, and where my battalion, the 169th Infantry, was, and that's where I spent the rest of my Army time was with the 43rd Division, 169th.
Okay, backing up just a little bit, but you did land on Guadalcanal.
Yeah,
How long were you there?
a week.
And what were you doing that week?
Nothing.
Wait, were the Japanese still bombing the whole time you were there?
Yeah. They'd bomb every night, it seemed like.
Wow, wow. What were your living conditions there?
Tents. That's all we had, and those fold-up cots.
Mm-hmm.
Slept a many a nights on one of
I
them.
bet you did. You have to be young to do that.
Yeah, and a lot of nights in a foxhole.
Oh boy. Well, I want to just stall for just a minute. When you first saw these islands and landing, well, first of all, landing on an LST, what was that like?
They're a kind of a cargo flat type ship, and they had jeeps and trucks and whatnot on it, you know. Mm-hmm. And you slept along the side of it. The top deck and the lower deck was all loaded with equipment they were transporting.
Mm-hmm.
So
You could actually sleep.
Yeah, yeah.
But you wouldn't be on them for very long, would you?
No.
Yeah.
I think from Caledonia to Guadalcanal was only like 3 or 4 days.
Mm-hmm. So, was there any incident between?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Every once in a while, when we'd be on the ship moving from island to island, they'd say, come on to the speakers that to go below or get above if we was having a submarine attack coming at us, so they wanted us up above board. And if the planes were coming, they wanted us below deck.
So you were the threat was from below and above.
Yeah.
Did you actually see the Japanese fighter planes?
Yeah.
What, Delbert, what was that like?
It was scary. Yeah. I've had kids injured and killed right beside me, and you know, and so you know, your faith has a lot to do with your belief.
Amen. Okay, not to get ahead. So it's New Caledonia, Guadalcanal for a week, and then
Georgia.
New Georgia. I've never heard of New Georgia. How long did you stay there?
Oh, it was probably 6 months, 7 months, and we were on the on the hillside right up above the airport there on New Georgia. And
were you there securing the airport?
Yeah, we were there. We had taken the 43rd Division had taken New Georgia, had claimed the island, of Japs. And we had to go back through all the line, clean all the stuff down the lines.
Now, what does that mean?
The debris, and shell cases and stuff. But I don't know why we had to clean it all up, but we did.
Interesting. Was it an active airfield while you were there?
Yeah. P-38s threw off of it all the time. It wasn't a big airfield. We didn't have any bombers. It was just the P-38s and fighters.
Fighter planes.
Yeah.
Did you mix with the pilots, or your group was separate?
We're separate.
Okay. Could you describe, if there was a typical day on New Georgia, what it was like?
Hot and stuffy. You get up in the morning and put dry clothes on, and 30 minutes later they're soaking wet with sweat, because the humidity is high and the temperature's 80 to 90 to 110 degrees all day long. The nights are never cooler than 85 degrees.
Were there Japanese encamped all around? Or had you gotten the island pretty secure?
It was secure when I hit it. So,
were there any remaining elements, bunkers or anything?
Yeah, we had to clean them all out.
What does that mean?
Their food and stuff that they had, and ammunition, because their ammunition wouldn't work in our guns, but ours would work in theirs.
Really?
Because of the millimeters of size. So, see, their shells were all 1 millimeter smaller than ours. So they could fire our ammunition, but we couldn't fire theirs.
Interesting.
Because it wouldn't go in the gun.
So did you just basically destroy everything you found?
Yeah.
Meaning like digging and burying it, basically?
Yeah.
Did you ever see, I hate to ask that, but did you ever see any casualties amongst the Japanese there?
No.
Okay, just what they left behind.
Yeah.
But Delbert, if they were fighting on the island, what happened to them?
We killed them.
This is a basic question. Would you literally bury them, or what would happen? Or did they bury their own, or?
I don't know. We'd go by them, they'd be dead, all blowed up like pigs.
You would see that?
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, okay.
And the smell of a human person is sickening, real sweet, sickening smell. It's a smell you never forget.
I believe it. This probably smells and sounds are very powerful.
Yeah.
Were you sleeping in tents on cots all that time?
Yeah.
Okay. Was there any danger of mosquitoes, diseases?
Yeah, the malaria that we had to put Adabrin in our drinking water, and had to take Adabrin every morning. They can make us take a pill, and they put it in your mouth, and they'd make you take water and drink it, and then you had to open your mouth and show them and lift your tongue that you didn't stick it under your tongue, because a lot of the guys wanted to get malaria so they could get sent home.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. My word. Did you have any casualties amongst you during the 6 months?
Not there at New Georgia.
Okay. Okay, so therefore it's time to move on. Why are you moving on? You've secured the base. Americans have control now, so you're moving on.
Yeah. We go from there to New Georgia. No. New Guinea.
Okay.
And we they set up with the whole division moved to New Guinea, and we set up our base, and then we unloaded ships off and on that come in, and then we'd train, and then we'd relieve the other divisions up on the front line, and go up and fight, and come from there back, and we'd change back and forth.
Rotate.
And then they'd unload the ships and while we were fighting. And
Well, Delbert, if you don't mind going into the details, you can just share whatever you want to share. But when you went to the front lines, how long were you there, and could you describe what it was like? You mentioned foxholes, sea rations?
yeah,
Would you mind sharing that?
well, we'd go up, and as we moved forward, every night we'd have to dig new foxholes, and we'd keep pushing the Japs back, and and I was in the mortar squad, and 81 millimeter mortar, and so the battalion I was in, we always were behind the troops that were moving. The artillery was behind us, and they'd fire over our head, and we'd fire over the troops' head and drop shells in ahead of them. We'd have an observer up front that was sending messages back to us by phone.
By phone?
Yeah. We'd string a wire line up.
The old days.
Ground-powered phones. And they'd show us give us what battalion or area to fire in, and we'd drop the shells in. So I never did ever get to see until later in my campaign what I was shooting at.
And could you describe what you saw?
Well, wait till we get to the Philippines,
please.
and I'll fill.
I want to hear all of it.
Yeah, so we pretty well fight all the way through New Guinea there, and up, and then we trained for a beachhead on Lingayen Gulf in the Philippines.
Lingayen Gulf.
Lingayen.
Okay.
Yeah. And we made the beachhead. Our division made the beachhead there, and marched and pushed them back all the way clear into Manila. But on the way back through in Manila, going on Manila there, we got into one battle there that we got pushed off of the hill 3 times, and so they decided to march us by night all the way around the hill on the backside, and so we could fire from our battalion with the heavy mortars, could fire up on top of the hill and fight, get them out of there, while the second part of the other battalions of the 43rd would come up the other side until we could get all the Japs shot and killed out of there. And then when we did, our artillery that we had built years back there in the Philippines up on the hill, and they were on tracks and built in caves back in the mountainside there, and they laid in on us from back of there, and our troops had to run for life back down off of the hill, and we lost, I think it was like 40% of our battalion from front and back of that hill, but we did get them off of the hill anyway, killed enough of them that next day we cleaned it all up. So
Goodness. War.
yeah, it's no fun to think back of
Oh, Delbert.
killing people, but
Yeah,
they started it.
that's right.
So
Yeah. Getting back to the phones, did they work well?
yeah, pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
You could hear them pretty good.
Mm-hmm. So did you hit your target pretty well because of the observer?
Yeah.
Was there ever any fear, obviously, of the troops up in front of you?
Oh yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Sure. Making
See, we had a little Piper Cub come in and observe for us one time, and they'd radio back to us. And we fired that gun, that 81, that day I did, till it burned all the paint off of the tube, the green paint. And we had sacks, anything we could find soaked in the water. A little stream was going by, wrapped around the tube. It still got so hot that the shells didn't want to go down. They'd start down, and the heat in that thing, it built so much gas that you could hear the shell go up and down in the tube. Pretty soon, finally, it'd get down far enough to hit the firing pin, it'd fire. We had it was when we got through that day that mortar tube was warped so bad out of shape we had to throw it away and get a new one.
My goodness.
So
Delbert, you were firing all day long?
yeah,
Weren't-
that's why I don't have any hearing.
I was just going to ask.
Yeah.
That had to play havoc on you. Were your ears just ringing all
Oh,
the
yeah.
time?
Yeah, I got so rummy. I told the sergeant, I said, I can't fire this thing any longer. I said, I can't, nothing's clear
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
So I went back and sat down, and next person moved up and started firing.
In fact, wouldn't that be logical that they would rotate you in something like that? But
Well, they never even thought about it in
Yeah.
them days.
Sure.
They never give us any ear protections, nothing to put in your ears. Never thought about it.
That's something.
Yeah.
Did they even think about the use of the mortar back at Fort Knox? What could happen to burn it out?
No.
Not even. So this is what, a new kind of warfare, basically?
Yeah.
And you were kind of the guinea pig, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they had mortars in World War One, but we did.
Mm-hmm.
So they made one that was bigger. It was I never did see it.
Mm-hmm. How much did it weigh, each mortar
The
round?
3 pieces weighed around 40-some pounds.
Well, that's heavy.
Yeah.
And with your hands, could you show, like, how long and how round a
Well,
mortar?
the mortar tube is about yay big around,
Okay.
and it's the tube itself is a good long distance.
Mm-hmm.
It's I suppose 3 foot, and the bipod is the main basic part, and then you have the dry pod, that the tube's locked down in, that base plate it's set on, and the tripod was the firing range that had the angles that go back and forth that you could raise and lower it
Mm-hmm.
for your range.
How did you haul all that stuff in?
By hand. You packed it.
That's like, wait a minute now, how many were there of you?
Well, let's see. In each squad there was 9 of us. Yeah.
And you were loading that on your backs
Yeah.
into the front area?
Yeah. We packed it.
Man,
Yeah.
that's something.
I know the one day I've thought about this so many a times. I've never ever figured out why. I was in the lead. We were moving up and come around a grass shack there, and as I hit the corner of the building, I ran right smack into the that bumped into each other. And by the time I could drop my bipod, get the pistol out to shoot him, he'd already pulled a hand grenade and set it off, put it in his helmet and held it to his chest, blew himself up.
Oh, my.
Because to the Japs, to be taken prisoner was a disgrace.
Right.
And if they killed themselves, they would be honored.
Delbert, that was right in front of you?
Yeah. Yeah, he was probably 20 feet in front of me when he blew himself up.
Did you ever objectively think, that was someone's son?
Yeah.
I think that kind of goes through soldiers' minds.
Yeah.
But anyway, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But you were spared. That's
Yeah.
the good news.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That incident that I'm telling you about, the only time I got to see was there on the Philippines, and we had moved up and it was setting. They got everything all set up late in the afternoon, and I said to the sergeant, I said, "There's a lot of action over there across the draw." I said, "Find out if that's our troops." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "There's too many people over there. Something's going on. And if it's Japs, I can swing this mortar around and we can blow them up." And so he went to the lieutenant, and they phoned in, and he come back about 20 minutes later. I'd already turned the mortar around and had my stakes and everything all set up. And he said, "They're not our troops. Go ahead and fire." So the sergeant gave me my deals to do, and I set it up and told him to fire. And I fired a zone of 9 shells, and you could see bodies flying in the air over there.
Approximately, what, a half a mile?
Yeah, mile away.
Delbert, if you had not seen them, what do you think would have happened?
They probably would have attacked us that night because they could see us,
Do you think that was the hand of God on you?
I think so.
Yeah. Not a coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I went through the whole campaign, clear to Japan and home without a scratch.
Amazing. And yet, being in combat.
Yeah.
Wow.
Had a mortar land within 5 feet in front of me. Their little knee mortars. They were a small little shell. And the Japs overpowered all their ammunition. They put too much powder in them, and so when they would explode, they would just splinter in thousands of pieces.
Kind of like shrapnel?
Yeah. And with ours, they were all squared in increments, and we put less ammunition, powder in them, so when they would blow up, they would be in chunks, and they do more damage. The little shrapnel shells that were so small didn't kill as much as what ours did.
So, were they personally good fighters, or they just weren't as equipped as Americans?
I weren't as equipped or as trained either, I don't think.
Am I correct in saying that they were kids? 12, 13-year-old kids fighting?
Yeah. Japan had one group that they called the Imperial Japanese Army. And they were big guys. They were big. And they were all 21 and up. And I never did ever see them. I think they were probably on Iwo Jima. and other places. But then, of course, our division fought all the way through in Manila, and when we got it cleared and everything, we started training then for a beachhead on Japan.
In Manila you were training?
Yeah, there in the Philippines.
Yeah. Getting back to the front lines, how did you sleep in foxholes? What's that like?
Not good.
Okay. Can you describe it?
You dig a foxhole that's 3 foot wide and 6 foot long, and then they got shallower and shallower as you went on, because you're tired, and I went 53 days and nights on the front line with never having the clothes off.
That's never a change of clothes.
No.
Oh, Delbert. Let me repeat it. 53 days on the front line with no change of clothes.
Yeah.
What were they like at the end?
Stiff. I think the Japs could smell us a-coming.
Oh my, Delbert, did you start itching?
Well, you sweat so much that,
Yeah.
and if it rained, you didn't put a poncho on. You loved the rain because it had helped. That's the only bath we got.
Yeah. How about shaving your hair?
Never shaved.
How about brushing your teeth?
Yeah. You had had a toothbrush and paste and a jug of your canteen of water. And so it's the only way, and of course I lay that on to my teeth all being gone, and so.
The lack of care. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, sure.
Yeah.
Were there, okay, back to this foxhole. So it's about 6 feet long, 3 wide. And how did you sleep in it?
Just lay on your back. The only way you could.
You got to be young.
Yeah.
In a sleeping bag?
Just on the ground. We didn't have any sleeping bags.
You didn't?
No.
Oh, man. Okay, so...
Had the poncho that you could put
Yeah.
over your head to drape you each side. That was plastic.
How did... You had puddles in the foxholes.
Well, it rained one night where I said to the guys on each side of me, I said, I'm not laying in this water. I'm getting up and sitting on the side. Don't shoot me.
Yeah.
And I think everybody else did too. It just poured that night. Typhoons, I guess.
My goodness.
It really did rain.
Delbert, at the end of 53 days, what did you look like and feel like?
Felt like heck.
I mean, your back had to be killing you.
Yeah.
You're hauling this stuff, sleeping in foxholes. How about food?
Yeah. I ended up, just before we got into Manila, I said to the sergeant that morning, he says, we're moving. I said, I ain't moving anywhere. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, I'm sicker than a horse. He called the medic over and took my temperature. It was 104. And so they evacuated me back to the clearance station, and I laid there for a week in the clearance station, and they were treating me for malaria, which worked out to be pretty good because they finally loaded me on the hospital ship and sent me back to the Netherlands East Indies at the 105th General Hospital.
So you did have malaria?
Yeah, no.
Oh.
I got there and they put me in a regular ward and done some tests, and that night they come and rushed me out of there and into a quarantine ward and said, "You've got hepatitis." And I spent 30-some days there in the hospital with hepatitis. And the first 2 weeks, I don't remember nothing. And,
Fever,
yeah.
delirious.
Yeah, couldn't eat. I was down to 130 pounds finally, and I finally started picking back up. And nurse come in one day and said, "Chaplain Ray, I got a letter for you." He was laying in the bed next to me, and I looked over at him, and I said, after the nurse left, and he read the letter, I said, "Did you live in Waitsburg?" "No," he said, "I didn't. I lived in Dayton, but my brother and sister did." And I said, "Yeah, Bob and Lorraine Ray." "Yeah." He said, "How do you know them?" I said, "I'm from Waitsburg. I went to school with Lorraine and Bob." And
What are the odds?
yeah. And I had one other person that flew in, was a pilot, and he had flew into to the Northern East Indies with a load, and he had got the times and found out that I was there. Of a letter I'd wrote to the Times. Come see me was Charles Sutton, my superintendent's son. The only two people I ever seen that I knew the whole 3 years I was overseas.
Wasn't that an absolute morale booster?
Yeah,
What a reunion. That almost sounded like a divine appointment.
yeah,
What are the odds on that?
yeah.
Do you know whatever happened to them?
No,
Yeah, didn't. No further connection. Was there any communication with home? Am I guessing the Red Cross was giving messages back home?
we get those little, what they call them, victory letters.
Victories at home?
We could send. You couldn't write too much in them, but that, and that's the only connections we had with home was with letters.
Yeah. How about, did your parents know you were in the hospital?
I don't know. I think I told them I was in the hospital. So
And-
much of that stuff, they censored your letters. They read them before they mailed them out.
Right. So, did you think you were going to live through that?
Oh yeah, I knew I was. This one kid that I've shipped over with said to me, he says, "I know I'm going to die over there. I'm not coming home." And he ended up in the same battalion as I did, and he got killed. He didn't get to come home. And I always said, "No, I'm coming home," and I did.
Yeah, there's something to that. But even when you were in the hospital suffering so badly, did you were confident that you would get well? And
Yeah.
what happened when you were able to leave the hospital? Then what?
And went back up to Manila. They'd taken Manila then, and so I flew back to Manila and found out where the division was, and they were up on the reservoir guarding it, because there's still Japs on the Philippines back in the hills.
Okay, we're into what, 44 at this point? 1944?
45.
45 at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long did you serve over there? Between-
Shipped over in August and came back in first part of September.
So over a year then.
Yeah,
You
2
served-
years.
2 years there.
Yeah.
Yes. What a long, long time.
Yeah.
Did
Sure.
it go by fast for you?
No, seemed like a long time. 2 Christmases over there.
Did you dream a lot about home?
No, thought about home a lot,
I bet.
and what folks were doing.
I bet there are a lot of prayers going up for you back here, Delbert.
Probably.
I can
Yeah.
imagine. But so getting back, I hate to dwell on this foxhole, but it it does fascinate me. Yeah, just little shovels. How long did it take you to dig a foxhole?
Oh, a couple hours,
Yeah.
depending on how deep you wanted it.
Yeah. And how many in a foxhole?
One,
Oh, one per foxhole.
because the other one had to be setting for guard.
Yeah.
And then it, it just, the two of you dug it for, then,
You'd rotate.
yeah,
Uh-huh. How long was your shift in watching and observing?
2 hours.
Just on and off, 2
Yeah.
hours. Could you ever really sleep well?
No,
Seems like your subconscious.
yeah.
Uh-huh. What was it like at nighttime?
The nights when the moon was full was bright, it was almost like this. It is outside right now. But at nights when the moon wasn't there, it was black, dark.
Creepy?
Yeah,
Did you hear all kinds of critters?
yeah. You could hear brush crackling, wild pigs running, and different animals.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever see snakes?
No,
Ooh, well, that's good.
yeah. One time we had a snake that there on New Guinea that come up and got up on front of the kid that was standing radio guard on the phone, and he heard a noise and he was reading a book, and he dropped the book down, and this snake was coming right up over the table in front of him, and he reared back and tipped the chair over, made so much noise, woke the first sergeant up, and Corky got up and to see what the heck was going on, and the snake was coming off over the table. He grabbed his entrenching shovel and whopped him across the head, and they had him drug out in front of the first sergeant's tent next morning. He's 16 foot long, and you couldn't reach around him.
Was there a python?
He was green, had a diamond head on him.
Oh my gosh.
That one kid was scared to death of snakes, and he always heard that if you that snakes wouldn't crawl over a rope because it tickled their belly. And so he put a rope in round underneath his cot that night, and he went to the show, and when that we had happened to come through, and they fixed his bed and up with a rope onto his rope to where they could pull through there and make him think it was snake underneath.
Oh.
He like to tore the tent down.
Oh, boy. That could have given him a heart attack.
It's a wonder it didn't.
Oh, my God. Did you have any downtime, recreation, when you mentioned books, that you could just relax?
Yeah, Saturdays and Sundays we didn't train or do anything or unload ships and stuff.
Did you have a chaplain, like a chapel service, things like that?
Yeah, had Sunday service every Sunday.
Uh-huh. Did you?
And
Oh, go
we've
ahead.
seen a lot of the shows,
Did you?
the came over.
Bob Hope?
Yeah, Bob
Did you?
Hope and,
You got to see him?
all of them. Yeah,
All right.
I've seen Bob Hope twice, and
All right. Wow. What was that like?
it was always fun to get out, and they do it at the theater area.
In the back part, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Delbert, so at the end of those 53 days, you ended up, at the end of your hospital stay, you went back to Manila to secure and train for Japan.
Yeah.
What was that time frame like for you? How long were you doing that?
So almost a month, and then Japan, we dropped the second A-bomb, and Japan surrendered.
Where were you when you got the news on that?
That was on a Sunday, and I was burning garbage at the garbage dump.
Did you understand the full meaning of that?
Yeah. The lieutenant come down and told me, but he said, you still got to keep burning garbage. All the rest of them were celebrating.
So you all knew, did you even understand what the atomic bomb was?
No, but I was glad they used it.
Because you knew that that was the end.
Yeah.
Where were you, let's see, where were you when MacArthur came through? When he said, I'm going to return?
Yeah.
Was that Manila Bay?
On Manila there.
Were you there?
Yeah. No, I didn't see him.
But you were in the vicinity when that historical...
Yeah.
Did you hear about it?
Yeah.
And what did you think of General MacArthur?
He was all right.
Can you name some really strong leaders in the war in the Pacific?
I guess I never was connected with any of them. You know. I know the general we had in 43rd Division was the only one I ever seen.
Do you remember his name?
No.
Because the 43rd was a very large division, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was a full heavy weapons division.
Yeah. So getting back to Manila, so you were there about a month and then the war ended there.
Yeah.
Now, had they not dropped the bomb, what were you just going to go on fighting in Japan and doing the same thing you were doing?
Yeah. We would have made the beachhead on Japan.
Wow.
See, we had to go in and clean out the docks and everything to get in to Japan to do our heavy weapons equipment companies.
Were you involved with that?
No.
But
No,
they were doing it.
They cleaned that all out and bulldozed the roads back out to where we could get to the airport where we stayed while I was when I shipped on from Philippines to Japan.
You actually did go on to Japan.
Yeah.
Can you describe that, going to Japan?
It was a mess. It was bomb flat.
Well, what part of it did you see?
Tokyo.
Did you get off ship and
Yeah.
actually walk around?
Yeah, we got off the ship, loaded on trucks, and they hauled us up to the airport. And that's where we stayed.
How long were you there?
I was there 2 weeks, and so they started in by numbers of the years that you'd campaigned and everything, and my number was 5 too less, but they didn't have enough to fill the ship, so they lowered it 5 points, and so I got to come home earlier.
All right.
So.
All right. So once again, did you observe civilians at all when you were in Tokyo area?
Yeah, mostly all women and kids, little kids.
Was everything just pretty much rubble and devastated?
Yeah, bomb flat to the ground, just mess.
Yeah.
We went right by Tojo's
Wow.
place,
Wow.
and they had hit the one corner of his barn with the bomb. That probably the bombardier says, "I'll kill Tojo's horse," but he missed it by 10 feet.
Was he dead already?
No, I think he was still alive. I don't know, but
Yeah.
then.
I can't remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so were you living in the? Did they have barracks at the airport, or how were you living?
Just the bunks on the ground floor.
Yeah. Did that seem surreal to you, Delbert, being in Japan?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. I knew my next move would be back home.
Yeah, that was hopeful.
Yeah.
You're around. Yeah. So we're into 1945. What month did you actually come home?
In the 1st of September.
Uh-huh. So you were securing the air base, and they just put you on the ship and
Loaded me out.
loaded you out.
Give
Yeah.
us, yeah, to disarm all of Japan, they give us all their sabers and rifles and pistols.
Did they really?
And as we loaded on the ship, they'd hand you an item, and
Wow.
they handed me a Jap rifle. I got it in the closet.
No
there yet.
kidding.
But I had it rechambered to a 30-06, so I could, but I never ever shot it.
Wow.
I made
That's-
a new stock for it. I didn't like their old stock.
Wow.
Oh.
So who knows? Was it brand new?
Yeah,
So there's no history of it belonging to someone.
I don't, nothing
Yeah.
that I would know.
Yeah. But anyways, so they were actually hauling all of the firearms equipment away out of Japan,
Yeah,
coming home.
yeah.
What do you think they were doing with them?
They probably dumped a lot of it in the ocean.
Yeah, my gosh. Huh. Did you see any plane wreckage, Japanese plane wreckages?
Oh yeah, there were planes all piled up on the airfield there.
Were they really?
Yeah.
Okay, how, not to get into the details, but did they haul them back home from the war, you think?
No.
I just wonder.
No, they left all of our equipment. Every time we moved, they'd leave stuff on the islands.
Yeah, yeah. Delbert, did you ever go back to the Orient?
No.
Did you ever have any desire to go back?
No.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to go back to Philippines and see how it's been rebuilt. I've seen pictures of it,
Yes.
and news flashes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They've really built it back up
Yeah.
nice.
Oh, yes, and if you can imagine Tokyo today.
Yeah.
Delbert, I need to know about that old raggedy outfit you were wearing for 50, was it 53 days?
Yeah.
You were taken to the hospital, and do you even remember that bath or shower you got?
No.
That I would remember.
Yeah.
Well, you were probably half delirious. Yeah.
Well, of course, when I got to the clearance station, they
Yeah.
stripped all the clothes off of me.
My goodness, hard to imagine. But, well, okay, so the good news, you're coming home on another Liberty ship, or?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
General John Pope,
Mhm.
I think, was the name of
Name
the
of
ship.
it, yeah.
Wasn't too big. There was probably 1,000 or so troops on it.
What was the morale like?
Good.
Sure,
Yeah.
of course.
Got back to Fort Lewis, where I discharged from, and then the lieutenant at breakfast, the second morning we were there, said, "I know you guys fought in the war, but he said you still got to salute the officers." And one sergeant got up and says, "Yeah, if you'd been over there, you'd think different." And he said, "I know. I just didn't made it. Lucky I got to stay home." But says, "Anyway, you still have to salute us."
Yeah. Where did you stop along the way getting home?
No.
Straight back to Seattle or where?
No, come back to Fort Douglas or Camp Stoneman in California.
So you went under the Golden Gate again.
Come back under the Golden Gate.
Delbert, do you remember seeing that?
Yeah,
That had to be so emotional.
yeah,
My goodness, were there cheers and?
yeah. There's
Just
a lot of people there met us
were
at
they?
the dock.
Wow, what a hero's welcome, Delbert.
Yeah.
Can you describe getting off the ship?
You know, I don't even remember getting off of the ship. I don't know why. There's something, I guess, just seeing homeland that's just so happy that,
Yes. You had your duffel bag and went down the ramp.
yeah,
And then what, boarded a bus then back to the base?
yeah,
And then the train to Fort Lewis?
Fort Lewis.
When did your parents know that you were home?
When I got home. I had wrote a letter
Oh,
the day
Delbert.
before
Oh my gosh.
that I loaded. I said I have to be the next troops out, and I don't know when that'll be. And I said so. And then the next morning, when they said that you could load up, and go, so I never ever had any communications with them anymore. I never sent a letter or anything from Camp Stoneman. So I just waited till I got home and had trouble getting on the bus in Seattle to go home. The guy didn't want me on the bus with a rifle. And I said, the rifle won't fire. I got the firing pin deal in my pocket. I said, it's in the duffel bag and all sticking out the barrel, and I said you put it in the underneath in the cargo bay. And he said, we're not allowed to carry guns, and I said, I don't give a damn, we're going with it anyway.
All right.
So
I love it.
yeah,
No argument.
yeah,
He said, yes, sir. So, go ahead. So the Greyhound over here
yeah,
to Walla Walla?
yeah.
Tell me
And,
about that, Delbert.
Then got off the Greyhound and at I think it was around noon, because I loaded at 8, got on the Greyhound at 8 that morning, and walked to pack that dang duffel bag clear from downtown, clear out to the vet's hospital, to the fire station where Dad was working.
Oh my
I didn't
gosh.
know if he'd be there or not, but he was,
My
and
gosh.
I walked in and
Oh,
and,
Delbert.
I said to the one guy, he asked me, he says, well, soldier, where are you headed? And I said, I want to find Delbert Mock. And so they hollered, Diesel, come here. And Dad come around the corner. So,
Oh, Delbert.
quite a thrill.
That makes me cry.
Yeah,
Just hearing your story. What a homecoming.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Then did he just say, folks, I'm leaving, I'm taking my son home?
Yeah,
Is that how it worked?
yeah. The captain told him, says, just go home. You're through for the day.
No kidding. Oh, so you come in through the front door.
Well, we drove into the back there, and Mom heard the car drive up, and she come out, and she said that to Dad, says, what are you home early for? You sick? And I come around the corner then.
I love these stories.
Yeah,
Oh, it's like out of a movie.
yeah.
Oh, Delbert. Then let me guess. After she quit through crying and hugging her son,
Yeah.
she cooked you your favorite meal.
Yeah.
Is that what happened?
Had a good meal that night.
Bet
Yeah.
you did anything you wanted,
Yeah.
and I bet it never tasted so good.
Anything tastes better than Army food.
Oh, did you sleep well for the first time in years?
Yeah. On a good bed.
Oh, you bet. Oh, Delbert. All I can say, now I'm crying.
Yeah.
Coming home, you won the war, and you're a war hero. Just, what did you have on? Your dress uniform, or what did you have on?
Yeah, the regular, my dress uniform with the Eisenhower jacket, I think.
Love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Tell me, what was the first few weeks like, Delbert, coming home?
Was nice.
What did you do?
Oh, met up with, wasn't many of the kids here that I went to school with because they were still in. I was probably early home from the war of any of the kids from here. So,
Delbert, your story, it makes me cry.
yeah.
You are the classic American hero soldier from World War II. And it is such a privilege. I'm so sorry. You're going to have to edit this. But what a privilege to sit here with you. It really is. It's such an honor. But anyway, we got to continue this story. I got to quit crying.
Yeah.
And so, did you work on the farm, or what did? Oh yeah, I need one of these.
I got to blow my nose.
Well, I'm crying. So, Delbert, what was life like then when you got rested up, fed well, and with your family again?
I went to work at let's see, I didn't do much. It was winter, and the time I got home and discharged and everything, they give me a 30-day furlough. I'd never had a furlough in the whole time I was in service.
Wow.
And so they give me 30 days, so I had to go back and in November and get discharged from Fort Lewis.
Hmm.
And
That was the easy part.
yeah,
Yeah. How'd you get over there?
drove my car over
Yeah. Uh-huh.
that I'd had.
Uh-huh. So what did you do then when you got out of the service and came home?
I I didn't do anything all that rest of that winter. When spring work started, I worked for a farmer driving tractor and getting the fields ready to plant peas for harvest, and worked clear through to harvest and got through with that. And
See, you would have been about 22, 23?
21 probably.
Well, 18 to 12. Well, yeah, 3 years. 21, yeah. Still very young, yeah. So working out, did that just seem...
Let's see, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, I'd
3
be
years.
21, be
Mhm.
20. No, I'd be 22.
22. Delbert, going out in these beautiful fields, peaceful, rested, it must have been surreal.
Yeah.
I have to ask, could you kind of shut down, calm down, or was the war just still there?
I just plain forgot it.
Mhm.
I just pushed
Shut
it
it
out of my mind.
Mhm. And you could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
But-
never had any nightmares of war.
It's amazing. How do you explain that?
I don't know.
Huh?
It just I guess it's because I didn't want to talk about it.
Mhm.
People would ask me and I'd say I don't want to talk about it.
So that was the power of just shutting it down.
Yeah.
Do you think that was common?
No, a lot of the people wanted to brag about what they done. I didn't.
Why didn't you want to talk about it? You just wanted to forget it?
I wanted to forget it.
Yeah, of course. Did you stay in touch with any of your buddies?
No.
So you left everything behind.
Yeah.
You did what you, like you said in the beginning, you did what you had to do and you did it.
Yeah.
And victory.
Yeah.
And that had to be the greatest feeling, knowing you won the victory.
Yeah.
How proud. Delbert, I have to ask you, when you see the American flag, like on the 4th of July, in parades and Veterans Day, that has to still have so much meaning to you.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I worked up at Dayton in the hospital's maintenance man, and the kid brought the flag in one night, and it had been raining, and he just wadded it up, laid it on the table in front of me, and I says, take that flag and unwad it, lay it out flat across the table to dry. I said, I fought for that flag, and I don't want it to be mistreated.
Amen. Yeah.
And
He didn't quite get it, did he?
no,
Yeah.
he didn't understand, but he learned.
Sure.
Yeah.
And good for you, Delbert.
He didn't mistreat it in front of me.
Well, deservedly. So is that where you spent the rest of your time, was up at the Dayton Hospital?
2 years up there, and then I went to work at the VA. And
What did you do there? In Walla Walla?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
refrigeration.
Okay.
Yeah,
For the rest of your time?
yeah.
Delbert, did you see veterans there while you were working there?
Oh yeah.
Obviously you did.
Yeah,
Did you ever talk to them?
yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They were what, they were war veterans too.
yeah.
Sure.
And Dad was in the hospital there. Well, he died at the VA while I was there working. And I know the Dr. Keenan caught me one day. I was headed on a call on one of the units, and he says, Delbert, he says, your dad's getting worse. You're going to need to put him on life support. And I said, no, don't do it yet. And he says, why? And I says, Dad wouldn't want it, but I'll discuss it with Mom and see what she says, and if she wants to do it, be up to her. And so when I got home that night, I said to Mom, told her what Keenan had said, and she said, don't you think we should? And I says, no, Mom, I don't. She said, why? And I said, well, Dad has always been saying I want to go home. And I said, he wouldn't like it. He'd rather die, natural life. And I said, he's 90 years old. And I said, why prolong his agony? She says, well, I think you're right. So I told Keenan the next day at work. I caught him and told him, I said, no, just let him die a natural death.
Wow. And that's what happened.
2 days later, he's gone.
Wow. What an honor. Yeah. What and you knew in your heart of hearts.
Yeah.
And again, that's just part of all of that faith, civility, decency, the values. And was he a veteran?
Yeah. World War
World War One. Did he fight in combat?
Yeah.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Where was he, Delbert?
In Europe, in France, and Germany.
Did he ever talk about the war?
No.
You never heard any stories?
No.
So you did the same thing, you just put it away.
About the only thing he ever said was one day he said that something was brought up about the war, and he says, he said the lieutenant always told me, he says, Mock, quit coming back so order when I send you out on a delivery. He said, I said, what happened? And he said, well, the shell landed and blew me back in. the door in the bomb shelter.
Was he married at the time?
Yeah.
Was he older when he went into the war?
No, he wasn't married when he went in. He joined. He volunteered and joined.
Wow. Just the army. Well, the army at the time.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was in the armored infantry.
Was he Patton's? Patton's war? No, I'm sorry. That's World War II. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Patton be this war.
I'm sorry. Yeah. My goodness. So you kind of followed your dad's footsteps.
Yeah.
You really did. What a wonderful family. Well, anyway, the other part of this story is you have children, so you met someone along the way.
Yeah.
In Walla Walla?
No, I had moved to California and was working for Birdseye down there and
Whereabouts, Delbert?
at Oxnard and Santa Ana.
Mm-hmm.
And so I met Bernice there at Oxnard, and she had the two boys, Tom and Jerry, and I married her in February down there.
So you adopted children?
Yeah, 57. So,
And then came back up here eventually?
yeah, moved up here that fall.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because Birdseye kind of shut down. So,
And then you went to the work at the VA?
no, come home and opened a store.
Oh.
Had
What
the
kind of store?
Appliance store.
Appliance?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Here in
Done-
Waitsburg?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Done refrigeration work and
Uh-huh.
put in heat pumps and furnaces and worked on furnaces and all of that. And
You're not afraid of work, Delbert?
no,
Yeah.
I've worked all my life, even
Sin-
though I got my back hurt in the service that I don't get any disability for. So,
You do not?
no.
How about your hearing?
They give me the hearing aids.
I would hope so.
I did get 60% on tendinitis
Well, I
from
would
the
hope.
ringing in my head.
Does it, are you used to it, or does it ring all the time?
It off and on.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it's so loud that it's aggravating.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you listen to the TV very loud?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing aids make it pretty clear.
Uh-huh. Well, that's good. Well, Delbert, in looking back over an amazing, amazing life, what would you say how the military perhaps changed your life?
Probably made me a better person. To know, at least made me know we got a government that most of the time does right for us. That some of them try, some of them don't, I guess.
Right. True.
Yeah.
Did you, anyway, was there something else that you wanted to add to
No.
that? Did you join any service organizations?
Yeah, I joined. I've been a member of the Legion for 60-some years.
All right, fantastic for that. Let's see, is there any, Vic, do you have some questions?
Just one question. Have you read Killing the Rising Sun?
No, I haven't read any of his books, and I should.
Well, you could identify with this one,
Yeah.
big time. I did want to ask one other thing, because it's talked about so much about the brutality of the Japanese. Do you have any comments on that, Delbert?
I guess it's just the way they were trained.
Yeah.
They'd rather die thinking they're going to be a hero than be killed.
Right.
Their way of belief is a lot different than what ours are.
Absolutely. Well, is there any other stories, anything I missed that I feel like there's so much more, because this time is so valuable to ask you, but is there something you want to add? Another story, experience, a highlight of the war that I missed?
I did forget to tell you, from New Georgia, went back to New Guinea or Guadalcanal and loaded on a troop ship, Liberty ship, and they sent us down to New Zealand for 3 months rest.
Really?
And so I spent 3 months there in New Zealand.
Whereabouts in New Zealand?
Auckland,
Oh,
out of Auckland there somewhere. Hamilton, between Auckland and Hamilton.
that had to be fabulous.
Yeah, that's the most pretty beautiful country I've ever been in.
It is.
And I did go back to New Zealand here in 50, the heck was it? 54 or 5.
Memories.
Yeah.
Had it changed very much?
No, pretty much the same.
Uh-huh. Did you get to meet, this is a personal question, Delbert, did you get to meet any of those beautiful Kiwi girls?
Oh yeah, I met a couple of them.
I won't meddle into those stories.
Had one nurse that I had a lot of good fun with.
Uh-huh.
She was very, very good gal.
Uh-huh. Well, I bet they loved you guys.
Yeah.
I bet they did. I've heard all the wonderful stories about the Aussies and the Kiwis loving the American soldiers.
Yeah.
But was that right on the beach then? Did you stay in barracks, or how did you live there?
In little, I called them little pig huts. They're barracks of 4, two men on each side with just a walkway between.
Uh-huh.
Then we had a mess hall.
Yeah. Did you literally just hang out, go to the beach, and just relax the whole time? Get your nerves back together?
No, we trained too there.
It wasn't all playtime.
No, no.
Were there a lot of you there?
Yeah, our whole division was there.
Oh my gosh. Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard this story about training in New Zealand.
Spent 14 days and night in the middle of a hurricane going to New Zealand.
Wow.
So,
On the ship?
yeah.
Oh, wow. Rocking. You didn't even get seasick then?
No.
No? Wow. But that's great. When you went back, you specifically wanted to go back and visit New Zealand because of the great memories there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
I told the nurses all up at Dayton when I was working up there, said, "What do you want to go to New Zealand for?" I said, "Well, I'm going to go see if I can find some of my kids." You can audit that out.
Okay. All right. No, nothing's edited. All of this is going to the archives.
Yeah.
That's cute. Well, that's a great ending to a magnificent story. And Delbert, once again, I get emotional. Thank you so much.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you.
We're here because you were there.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Well, I thank you for doing it.
It's a great privilege.